Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Anuwar Ali has been appointed as Chancellor of University of Cyberjaya since November 2019. Previously, he was the President and Vice Chancellor of Open University Malaysia, OUM, for 12 years, from 2004 to 2015. He established himself not only as an economist in the area of industrial planning and human resource development, but also as an academic leader. Tan Sri was the first academician being posted to the Ministry of Education as a Director of Higher Education. Currently, he is also a member of the Board of Trustees of the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, MIA. Members of the National Wage Consultation Council, as well as the Chairman of the Technical Committee of the said Council. Was a member of National Higher Education Council and members of International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM, Academies of Graduate and Professional Study Business Advisory Committee. He was appointed as economic consultant to a number of national and international projects, such as UNIDO, consultant to the Industrial Master Plan Malaysia for year 1986 to 1995. UNIDO consultant to the Industrial Development of Bhutan for year 1990 to 1991, and consultant to the Asian Plan for the Technology Development. I would like to welcome Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Anuwar Ali to the webinar and start his session. Please, Tan Sri.
Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon to one and all. Let me firstly thank Datuk Rashid for the kind introduction to this talk this afternoon. And let me also thank the management of University of Cyberjaya for giving me this opportunity to share some of my views on online teaching and learning. And of course, I would like to recognize, I understand the presence of Tan Sri Palan and also Datuk Prof Muhammad Razak, Vice Chancellor. And I also understand that there are some members of the board of directors, the deans, and of course faculty members from the university. I am very honored to be here this afternoon to share what I think about online learning and teaching at all universities, not only in Malaysia but throughout the world. Next, Venice. Next slide. Yes. Well, as we all know, since the pandemic 4 months ago, there's a lot of, the pandemic has affected a lot of our education scenario, not only in Malaysia, but equally important in other countries, in other parts of the world. And from what the bank, World Bank says, it affects about 1.5 billion students throughout the world. And this is about 80% of the global student population, which includes all stages of education, from primary school up to higher education. And of course, as we know, because of the pandemic, there's a global disruption in education. And of course, it also indicates the digital divide that we have, not only between the developed countries and the less developing countries, but also in countries like ours, where the use of the internet has not been as widespread as we expect. So this has caused a lot of issues in relation to having education online. But nevertheless, because of the pandemic, we are forced to adopt online to deliver courses. This has been happening actually in the last 20 years or so. But of course, the pandemic itself, COVID-19, has forced us to be more active or to adopt and change our delivery system in all forms of education. And I believe that as of now, the classroom is no more the center of learning. That means it has other platform that we have to use so that the students will benefit from learning processes. Now, because of all this, it has become more important in universities, in the schools, that we trace the student, we can give services to the student, and this is what we call learning analytics in universities becoming more important. I'll dwell a bit on that later on. Next, finish. Now, because of all this urgency, although universities are aware of this, perhaps even 10 years ago, but the disruption is more apparent now, more transparent also, that we need to be ready, especially educational institution, not only in schools, but also at the university level. So we have to have a structure, organizational structure, as well as management that can support online learning, not only now, but all the more for the future. The second issue is whether the university, whether it's a public university or university like University of Cyberjaya, is willing to invest in new platform, in new technology, infrastructure and so on, to adopt new ways of delivery to our students. And of course, as we all aware, I'm sure faculty members are aware, that training is also important. We have to be technically adept so that we can conduct online teaching to the best interest, not only of the faculty, but also the student. And I think it's more challenging for programs that are run at universities like University of Cyberjaya, where the face-to-face learning is regarded very important, clinical work and so on, at the laboratories and so on. And last but not least, among the readiness that we should be able to prepare is to develop rules and regulation and practices and also work culture within the university to support online learning, because the new era will be quite different from what we are used to before. Next, finish. Next slide. Yes, it is because of this, I think learners as well as the faculty members are also should be in the process of moving into a new, what you call, paradigm. And their expectations are certainly different from the days that we are used to, where classroom is the most important part of learning and teaching. So student expectation, while before it's also high in terms of faculty members' commitment and the quality of learning and teaching, but now it is more important because the students and like the lecturers would want to have better access to the internet, there's no problem with connectivity, and so on. So because of this, the online learning system that is already in place in some universities, like Cyberjaya, University of Cyberjaya, it has to be enhanced from time to time. And the time is right now that, as I said earlier, we have to also invest in infrastructure, IT system, and so on. Now, in terms of the student adapting, I think the students of today, the undergraduates and so on, they are more ready to go to be adaptable to the new vehicle, to the new online learning system. But of course, the students, as we all know, have to be motivated as well. And this is where faculty members also should play an important part to motivate them to go online, apart from the normal, if we are allowed soon, face-to-face lectures and so on. Now, in terms of student learning, of course, they will be dependent on faculty members. But equally important, there are areas where they have to be receptive to independent and self-managed learning. They can leverage on many of the current things that we have, you know, like open educational resources that are available worldwide, where students can access to what has been written on their subject matters. And in this sense, the open education resources that are available, they are there, and sometimes they come in bits and pieces. But OER is normally not structured in the way that it is done at the university, in this following the syllabus or curriculum, but it's done as people who write about certain subjects that are of interest to the student. And there are thousands and thousands of these open educational resources that are available in many areas, and I'm sure including some of the programs that are run at University of Cyberjaya. The other one is MOOCs, which is massive open online courses that are also available, that are done, in fact, in the universities, the public universities have done this as well in Malaysia, in our country, where certain basic subjects are done following the syllabus, and it's there for the students to access. But of course, MOOCs, any faculty student cannot rely on it totally, because the higher level subjects must be delivered by their lecturers following the syllabus at the university. Next page. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of the learning of the student, as well as the development of any university, I think there are various areas if we can spend a bit of time in terms of preparing the lessons, preparing the classes for the student, not only face-to-face, but also in terms of learning courses that are taught online. So I'm sure faculty members at the university are already doing this for the last number of years, where I think they are so structured so that we know the course learning outcome that the university wants from the student. So I think it's important to prepare this And this is where the faculty members, the deans, the deputy dean in charge of academic play an important role in this. The other one, secondly, is the content developed can be uploaded, and I'm sure this has been done diligently at all universities, including the University of Cyberjaya, where the content is uploaded into the learning management system so that the student can not only have access, but the student will be able to have for independent learning, meaning on its own, when the content, when the student reads the content, the curriculum, following the curriculum, they know, he or she will know well about the subject matter. The next one is, this is a more difficult part in the sense that the learning activities through the guidance of the faculty members must be able to encourage collaborative learning. That means the student can share their knowledge, can share whatever is available in the system, in the LMS, with their colleagues in the same program, or even in other program from other faculties. The last but not least, this is the part that has become very, very important, what we call learning analytics. The learning management system, and I hope it has been done, and I'm sure it has been done at the University of Cyberjaya, is to track learners' performance and completion rate, their satisfaction level, competencies, and proficiency. This is important because as a private university or even a public university, student-centeredness is very important. So you have to trace students so that we can also track their performance during the various semesters. And if the students are very weak, then there's a good chance that we can retrain or see what's happening to the weak student and make sure that they perform better than usual. Next, finish. Next, yes. The other important question which has been raised many a time is whether quality of online assessment exam are acceptable or of the highest quality. I believe that through the experience of many other institutions, this has been done in a very structured way, so that meaning it can be done anywhere. But of course, you must have the standard operating procedures where the final exam can be done effectively, with efficiency, and with a lot of what you call monitoring of people during the exam time online. But we have seen this method has been done well, and I'm sure University of Cyberjaya, I see the record that you have done this as well. And of course, quality means you have to comply. We have to comply with regulation done through in our respect NQA, and I think this is important to ensure that value is given to the student learning process. Next, Vinesh. Next slide. Now, I've been told by Vinesh and people at the IT side of the university that all this actually has been done at the University of Cyberjaya, and I must congratulate the university, including the IT people who have adopted various methods to ensure that the online teaching and learning is done at a very acceptable level, particularly to meet the expectation of the student. Next, Benish. Next, please. Now, I'll come to the last slide, actually. This is where we have to realize that online teaching and learning will stay with us, and hopefully the university, like any other good universities, will adopt to this new phase of the university development. And this is what we call the new norm. And this is where I believe, and I'm sure, the faculty members will play an important role. They are not only as facilitators, they should guide the student. And of course, at the end of the day, they should assess the student performance, their absorption of knowledge that they have gone through the courses and so on. So it's no more like before, where the classroom is the most important point, where the lecturers just give the lectures and that's it, and the student will sit for the exam. But the new norm will be the students expect a lot from faculty members, not only to guide them, to facilitate them, but also to ensure that the outcomes of their learning processes is of good quality. Now, this is the next, we believe that open and distance learning will be increasingly important, not only for the usual campus university, but all the more for open university that are already in existence in our country and throughout the world. Which to me is also important in the sense that because of open and distance learning, and because of the flexibility in the learning processes, the constraint of time and place are certainly minimized, because the student can actually learn at any time to suit their environment and so on, and also they can do at other places. So this means that even campus universities have to think of ways where they can enroll students, increase the enrollment, so that they will get students from anywhere in the world. And being a global player, the University of Cyberjaya, I think, will probably use this platform to get not only students in the campus, but there are courses and programs that one can teach online. But of course, I also believe at the end of the day, not only the system of delivery is important, but at the end of the day, the students probably at this stage of our development still need face-to-face learning, because that's also an important part of teaching and learning in any university. So it depends on the management, it depends on the faculty members, and where you strike a balance, what we call now as blended learning. That means a mixture of either face-to-face plus a bit of online. It depends on the range. Maybe in terms of areas like medicine, perhaps you need more face-to-face as compared to online. But nevertheless, I believe that for the future development of any university, online learning become a part, an important component of that delivery. So with that note, I thank all the audience, and I look forward to a question from the audience. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Datuk, thank you very much.
Okay, Datuk. Thank you, thank you.
We will be raising the questions now.
Okay, inshallah.
Datuk Rashid.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. It was a great sharing session. Perhaps it's a lot of point we can learn from here, Tan Sri. Now we read a few questions from the participant for you.
Yes.
Okay, there's one question. Hold on, Tan Sri.
Yeah. I think what we do, Datuk, we go one by one. It'll be easier.
Yeah. Okay, Tan Sri, what is your suggestion on the continuing with online teaching at least by 30% to 50% by all education institutions, even after MCO is lifted completely?
Thank you. As I indicated at the end of the last part of my presentation, I think there's no way going to the old style where you have 100% face-to-face, because the system is there, the technology is there to help not only the student, but equally important faculty members. If certain subjects, as I imply, may have to have slightly more face-to-face than others. So it depends on the courses, it depends on the faculty. So I believe whatever it is, like some, if I can example of some open university that are already in existence, when they do online, is always based on a blended kind of, at the moment, blended in the sense that they have face-to-face meeting plus the online delivery plus modules that they have for the student. It is like the MOOCs style, except every course they have a module, and then on top of the module, the students are expected to interact with their lecturers, with their tutors for their learning, during their learning process. So I think it's reasonable to say between 30 to 50%, depending on the program. And I believe that the faculty members, whatever faculty in any university, will have to sit down and really work out the correct mix that they should have in the delivery of their program. Thank you, Datuk. I hope I have answered the question. Yeah.
Okay, the next question, Tan Sri. Knowing the popularity of online learning due to the current situation, can this replace traditional learnings or to be a support means of teaching and learning in future? And if this online learning replace the traditional method, how we will equip students to meet the employability skill and to measure their achievement?
Personally, I do not believe that online 100% can be done online. There must be as I said earlier, a kind of blended learning where you have face-to-face is very important, because the student would want actually to have face-to-face interaction with the lecturers, with the professors and so on. I can, if you read the some of the news from UK universities, the students now are complaining that the universities are not having classes, meaning they complain that we pay the same amount and yet there's no classes. And secondly, the example of some fully online universities in the US, like Phoenix, they have 100% online, but the attrition rate is very high. The attrition rate is very high. Students enroll. When they enroll, they become student of that particular university. But when it's online totally, then the dropout rate is very high. And for that kind of university, from my reading, it shows that only about 20% or even less of the student can be retained to continue until the end to get a degree or something like that, or even to complete a course, a non-degree course. But on the other hand, you also have what you call open universities, like Open University UK, Open University Malaysia, for instance, OUM, where there's a kind of blended. And I think for ODL universities, when you're blended, the important thing to do is to ensure that you take care of the student during their learning processes, during their learning time. So for this ODL, the completion rate may be as high as 80%. I mean, OUM, for example, is 80%, or OU UK is 80%. Of the people who enroll, they complete, because they take care so that the blended is suitable for every student. But we have cases where, if I can quote one or two examples, you know, Indira Gandhi Open University in India has a population, student population of 1 million. But the rate of attrition is very high. At the end of the course, apparently, there's only about 50% of the student can finish, because I think it's too much to enroll too many students. So you have a variation, but I still believe whatever it is, for many years to come, the student, for instance, they want classes, they want face-to-face, they want to be guided. And I think in our context, in the Eastern culture, meeting or facing face-to-face with the lecturers and professors is an important part of learning. Thank you.
Yeah. There's another question, Tan Sri, one of the lecturers from MAPS College. He's from Maldives. His concern is about other factors resisting the online study from both lecturer sides and student side, like the expensive internet, which is about $1 per GB. During the pandemic, government has subsidized 5 GB per student per day, but not for the lecturers. These are the major barriers in Maldives, though even every 1 in 3% in Maldives own and use internet through a smartphone. Yes, your comment, Tan Sri.
This is, you mean, can I get this right? This is about pricing, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I think, I believe that it depends a lot on the government of the day. If they want to promote online learning, the broadband must be there, internet connection must be there, and it has to be given at a reasonable price, not only for the university lecturers, but also for the student. So actually talking about Maldives, Open University Malaysia, where I was associated before, as a program or a few programs with the Villa College in the Maldives, where a part of the program is done online. So I think so far it's successful, and we have students who completed the program in good time. Thank you. So it depends a lot on the government at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay. Can you take another one or two, Tasri?
No problem at all.
What do you think is the government role in promoting online learnings and to be more accessible and feasible?
I think, as I indicated earlier, is how to make the the connectivity more accessible, because the importance of education is accessibility, and of course pricing of any system, particularly IT, using all the platform that we have for education. This question of pricing is very important. The government has to support all this because we have been told many years actually the broadband reach in Malaysia, for instance, was projected to be done in so that it will reach not only the big town but also all over the country. But the recent pandemic has shown that this is not so, whereby students from the less developed states, the less developed areas are at a disadvantage because they don't have accessibility. So the question of IT accessibility, connectivity must play an important role. And the government, I think, have to do it well. Thank you.
Okay, and the other ones, Tan Sri, based some experience, online course do less to promote student academic success and progression to do in-person courses. Taking a course online reduce student achievement in that course as measured by grades by about 1/3 of a standard deviation. Will you appreciate Tan Sri comment on this?
Well, I think the institution itself, faculty members have to accept the fact that it's not as natural teaching online as face-to-face. But we must also regard online learning as a complementary platform, not totally. I don't believe it being totally taking over from face-to-face, because the wisdom of having education is to meet up with the professors. They are the role models for the student. They must sit in the class, and it can never take away that element in education. But as I said earlier, the most important way is how to utilize technology, how to utilize all the educational platform to our advantage. I think that's where the university, the faculty members must be able to judge, because as I said earlier, the component of the e-learning part is very important. And this is where the faculty members can guide the student. That's the most important way, to guide the student where to seek the knowledge, where to be interactive with their friends, with their colleagues in the same class, or even interactive with the lecturers. So this is where the learning management platform system must be an important part of that teaching and learning. The other one, Datuk, if I can add, is in some areas, faculty produce modules for any course that they think is suitable. They have modules. So for ODL institution, unlike the campus university like University of Cyberjaya, ODL, every course is done through a module. That again is also complementary. It's a guide for the student to read, more importantly, to read before the interaction with the lecturers or with the tutors. So a good mix of future education, I believe, will depend on how we assign online learning to match with the campus face-to-face teaching and learning. That's where I think every faculty member, every faculty can play an important role. Thank you.
Okay, that's the next question. What is going to happen to the physical campuses? What do you foresee will happen in the immediate future?
It'll be smaller than before, I suppose. No, besides that, you know, we remember the early days in the 70s, in the 80s. The campus must be 500 acres. Like UKM where I was, 1,000 acres. UMS in Sabah, 1,000 acres. But I think the time will come, especially for the private institution like University of Cyberjaya. That is a costly investment. But even with IT, I think the campus will probably physically it'll be smaller. Physically it'll be relatively smaller. But the important thing is, how do you invest in technology, in the learning management system, in the learning platform? That's where investment is. And the other component of teaching is actually one has to employ experts in instructional design, because sooner or later the faculty members, if they don't have that knowledge on how to put their material into, well, like a video or something like that, you need instructional designers and instructors to do this. So this is another form of expertise, another role that IT people can play. And there are increasingly numbers of these people being employed in universities. So in short, I think the physically it'd be relatively small, but in other terms, in terms of investment for IT, learning management system, expertise, I think it'll be a lot more bigger. And the other thing is, I believe, and I think University of Cyberjaya has done it as well, is to train the lecturers to be adept at online teaching. I believe that's been done. Thank you.
Yeah. This is the last one, Tan Sri. Quite interesting question. How can we mitigate the loss of the other aspect of campus life? Campus living, student experience. Is there?
Okay.
Can you hear me, Tan Sri?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you repeat perhaps?
Okay, I read it again. How can we mitigate the loss of the other aspect of campus life, campus living, student experience? Is there any ideal ratio of online learning to face-to-face learning in common degree and diploma programs?
Okay. It's very complicated, I think, but let me put it this way. Being a full-time student, fresh student, okay, student from say after sixth form, after form 5, after matriculation, I think the experience of being a student is in the campus. The experience of, doing things like, studying from the professors, from the lecturers, it is different. You remember when we were young, it's very different from the school style, the school system. So that element is very important. Campus life for the student. And interaction is not only because of the program, because of the courses, but there are other activities which the student are encouraged or the university is promoting so that the student can be active in, say, societies, community work. This is where they train leadership, for instance. This is where campus is important. But on the other hand, teaching and learning, to me, as I said earlier, can be further enhanced. You add value by having online as well. But the other spectrum is where in most ODL institutions, like in Malaysia is of course Open University, Wawasan, AU University, where I think 90% or even 100% of the students are working people. They work, but they do their courses while at work. So that kind of student, those type of students, they don't have to be in the campus. But nevertheless, the face-to-face component of teaching, of learning should be there. This is where I said earlier in the talk, where blended learning is still important because interacting with the lecturers, interacting with the university people is equally important. So you have two groups of people. The fresh school leavers, that's a different group. Their needs are different, but those who continue with lifelong learning, say they want to continue getting a degree or enhance their first degree, they do online, but online is supported by face-to-face. So I think those are two areas of that we can think of. But University of Cyberjaya is of course full-time campus, but sooner or later, I would expect, or I can see that online will become a more prominent component of teaching and learning for the student. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tan Sri. Tan Sri Palan with us now. Maybe you want to say
okay. Tan Sri Palan, you want to ask?
No, not a question, sir, but your depth of experience really shows. I think I just want to say thank you so much. I think it was a very valuable, invaluable, valuable to listen to you, that even though you are Professor Emeritus, I think you, to me, look like a millennial. You are so comfortable with technology.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think some of the suggestions that you have are very pragmatic. I think this is what Peter Drucker said some 40 years ago, and he said, look, the universities as it is today, they're going to be a relic of the past in 40 years from now. So I think your vision, I think your articulation of the idea that it's not business as usual, it's new, but at the same time, social learning is not going to go away. We want to learn from one another. We want to learn from the lecturer. I think we couldn't have found somebody better to talk to us than you. So all I want to do is thank you so much for coming back to your university. You are the chancellor here. And thank you very much for spending this afternoon with us. And we want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri. And of course, terima kasih to you, particularly Datuk Prof, Muhammad Raza, and all the faculty members, the dean, and I understand board members who are there, and of course to Datuk Rashid, who has conducted the afternoon session well.